A friend of mine recently took the DISC test and didn't feel like the results accurately reflected her behavior style. Now, DISC is an assessment tool that measures essentially two things. One is your your task orientation versus your people orientation, and then your pace or your processing as fast versus slow. And slow isn't bad, just as a side note here. Slow just means you tend to need time to process before you come to a conclusion, whereas fast-paced people just make decisions. It's kind of, I like the analogy of fast-paced people leap before they look, whereas slower-paced people look before they leap. So it can be positive either way. It's not a positive or negative, it's just your style. Do you tend to make a quick decision and then think about it, or do you tend to think about it and then make a decision? Anyway, she didn't think it reflected very well how she actually behaves. And I reminded her that while DISC is super helpful, I think it's great to try to make an assessment of somebody kind of on the fly, because if they're slower paced, it works really well if you want to communicate effectively to slow it down. Talk a little bit more slowly and give them space between your questions and your conversation to let them process. But if it's fast-paced, hey, you can go right after it. People can hear 3 times faster than you can talk, so go for it. I tend to be a very fast-paced, very fast talker. And also the task orientation versus a people orientation. So what I did here was I reminded the person that DISC is a snapshot in time. DISC can depend a lot when you take the assessment on how you're feeling at that time. And are you thinking of yourself in a business setting? Or are you thinking of yourself in a home or personal setting? How are you feeling at that moment? Is it the end of the day and you're kind of tired, or is it early in the morning and you're pretty fresh? Those can affect how you answer some of the questions. The other big thing about DISC is, because it's not proprietary, there's a lot of tools out there from a lot of different companies, and the way they ask questions and how they interpret those answers and plot you and give you results and feedback vary greatly. And so it's just this one assessment taken at this time with whatever was in your head at the time you took it. So it's helpful, it's a data point, but it certainly doesn't tell the whole story about you. And that's okay. It can still be helpful. It's just not definitive. It's not the story. And really no assessment is, whether that's DISC or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram or any of them. Now, the one I would say is the best if you want to get at like who you are and to be definitively you, is StrengthsFinders. Because StrengthsFinder weighs more than just 2 factors, task and people orientation, fast and slow processing. It has 32 outcomes, not just 4. And so nobody that I've seen ever has the same top 5. And if they do have the same top 5, they're in a different order. So it really speaks to the fact that everybody is unique and your results are unique. So I would say if you take a DISC assessment and you don't feel like it captured you, you can do a couple things. You can try a different DISC assessment, because there's a lot of them out there. Or you can try to focus, really take it as you with your mind on your work, or you with how you are at home. And make sure you're always answering the question one way or the other, not kind of jumping back and forth. And take it probably in the morning when you're more fresh than you might be near the end of the day. That's all one thing you can do, is kind of redo your DISC. The other thing you do is, I would say, go take StrengthsFinders and see what information that gives you. Because my experience is that that's going to give you a much better picture of who you are and explain what you do well much better. It's just more difficult to try to assess somebody on a 32-point scale when you first meet them. I can't even remember all the 32 things, but I can remember the 4 DISC categories. And it's pretty easy to quickly assess, is somebody talking fast or slow, and do they seem task-oriented or people-oriented? So DISC has its place, other things have their place, for sure StrengthsFinder has its place. So if you get something back from any of these, and it doesn't seem like it fits you, don't be thrown off. None of them are meant to be definitive. None of them are meant to capture all of you. They're just meant to capture a part of you and give you some insight that can be helpful to helping you help others understand you and to help you understand yourself.